What's up, everybody? Welcome to day 25 of the All About How podcast from growingau.com. I am your host, John Knott, as always, here to bring you another value-packed episode today. Really kind of a fun story that we're going to talk about today. We're going to be talking about when I was in 8th grade and actually placed in the National Trumpet Competition. We're going to be talking about the process that led up to participating in this national competition and the amount of work that was required to actually be at a competitive level in that space, and then applying the principles that I learned from that work and how I've been able to then place them farther off into different aspects of my life. And what I'm going to do is hopefully, through sharing this experience, push forward some sort of form of catharsis to you to see where the areas of your life where that you can leverage those skills that you're learning to become better and to take those let's just say characteristics that you've honed in different parts of your life and apply them to other areas as well. And those characteristics, like we're going to be talking about today, are hard work, dedication, persistence, things of that nature, and how they really do play a role in success and excellence, and how, just like any other skill, they require practice, they require honing, and they require some attention when it comes to actually making them happen. And I believe in that very fully, and we'll be talking about that today in this episode. So let's go ahead, let's roll that intro, and then jump on into it.
It's all about how in 2020 we're going to leave the world a better place than we found it. And have a very highly successful day.
So please just allow me to preface myself here with two things before we jump into the meat of this podcast. Number one, I hope everyone's doing all right out there. It's still a crazy time. There's no question about it. So I do hope everyone who's listening and coming back here again, I hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's staying safe. Obviously, it still is a very difficult time. I wanted to make sure that I came on here and just wished everyone some good fortune. I know it's a hard time, but I'm here with you. Let's move through this together the best we can. Even if it's kind of vicariously, we can just, that there's a little bit of unity together here through this podcast. If you're tuning in every day with the other people that are tuning in every day, there's a good connection there. So our community, even though small, hopefully this is providing some sort of normality and or peace throughout these times. And if that is something you're getting from this, I'm glad. And I'm glad to know that that is happening. So I want to come out here and make sure I had a chance to say that to everyone today. I appreciate every single one of you, and I hope things are going well. Better times to come soon. We all have our fingers crossed. Second thing I need to say is, if I sound a little weird in the talking today, I cut my tongue pretty bad. So it hurts to speak, so I'm talking and moving my mouth somewhat weirdly. So if it sounds a little bit odd, you know why. But we're going to move forward here with the story. When did I place in the National Trumpet Competition? Well, I had been playing trumpet since first grade. In fact, when I graduated kindergarten, and I say graduated because the elementary school I went to had a fun kind of graduation ceremony for their kindergarten students. When I graduated kindergarten, the present that I received from my parents was a trumpet. It was a T300. If you're into music and if you're into trumpet specifically, you'll know what that is. Very rudimentary, basic, entry-level horn. But that's what they gave me. And now my parents also, it's worth noting, were band teachers. My mom was actually the band teacher at the school that I went to elementary school at. And my dad worked at a place called Bishop McDevitt at the time, and then sooner the Milton Hershey School. So what happened was they gave me that trumpet. And then in first grade, I joined band. So I had been playing for quite some time, and I played all the way through elementary school. And then in 7th grade, I switched over to the public school system in my area and joined band there as well. That was obviously, I was in 7th grade. And then in 8th grade, my last year in middle school, we decided to do the National Trumpet Competition. And now I had been taking lessons since first grade with 3 different teachers. One of them, Mrs. Miller, who was a blessing in my life, was the first teacher I had, and I had her for a very long period of time. I think probably 5 to 6 years I was with her. And then I went to 2 other teachers that one of them is the one that actually had me go on to do the NTC stuff, mainly because it was at the college that teacher was teaching at. So that is why we were able to kind of find that and go and do it. So we decided that we're going to do NTC, and that is, again, the National Trumpet Competition. So what you do is you prepare a piece, you send in a recording of that piece, and if you are selected from the recording process, you get to go perform at the actual competition. So we, spent months preparing this piece. We were doing a song called High for All Aspects by Terry Everson, and we were preparing this piece for a very long time. And I was a pretty good trumpet player, because it's what I did. Like that, I didn't do a whole lot in the sports coming up. I did basketball in elementary, but like beyond elementary school, up through my junior year in high school when I started cross country, music was what I did. Like that was my focus. And so I did a lot with that, and obviously having two band teachers as parents helps. It really does help hone the excellence. So I was pretty good. But National Trumpet Competition level of good, well, that's another story, right? That requires work that was not in my wheelhouse yet, because being good in your high school, or, well, in this case, being good in your middle school, your elementary school, is a far different scenario than being good on the national level. So the workload, I had no idea what I was getting into here. So we start going through the process of recording this piece, right? We have to get the piece ready to a point where we can record it and send it in. Now, we had gone through the recording or the practicing process several times. Every day. And this is not like I'm going to sit down 10 minutes a week. This is every day for, I would say, probably nothing shorter than 30 minutes. And most of the time was 45 minutes to an hour and a half of practice every single day. And we were doing this. So what we would do is the whole point of the recording portion is to get the piece good enough. All right, we have to get the piece to the point where we can get in the door. So we were doing that. And being in 8th grade when you are having all these other life experiences happen, I was the lead in the school musical that year, first time really doing that, so that was new, as well as just had a whole bunch of life experiences, specifically revolving around like first girlfriends and all this type of stuff. That was all these new experiences that led me away from I don't want to practice for 30 minutes to hour and a half today. I just want to go and be a kid or whatever, right? But long story short, for the most part, I was able to be dissuaded from those moments of lacking of motivation. So we record the piece, and the recording actually went pretty well. We were very happy with the recording. It took about 2 sessions to get it right where we wanted it, but we got the recording of the piece done, and we sent that out to the National Trumpet Competition's judges, their panel. And basically that was now, okay, we just have to wait and see what happens, and we will find out later on. And that in that little period of time did provide a small respite of the really intense practicing, or what I thought to be intense practicing, because we weren't even there yet. So that period of time gets passed, and then one day we're in middle school choir, actually. And now my mom was the teacher at my elementary school, but she's not the teacher at the middle school. So the choir director calls me down in front of the choir and asks me to look at his computer. And on his computer, he had the list of individuals who were selected to perform at the National Trumpet Competition. And sure enough, there on the list, Jonathan Knott, right there, High for All Aspects by Terry Everson, selected. Now, I actually freaked out so much that I jumped up in excitement, tripped over a chair, and banged my head off the tile floor. So that was kind of a good time. Definitely got some laughs. So it was a good experience. But so that happened, right? And now we realize, okay, we got in the door, but now we have to actually go in and perform. And this is when the workload increased. Okay, hour a day, that was like a minimum of the work. That was the minimum of the practice that was being put in, okay? And this was no longer just being able to play the song, no. If you know anything about music, you know that it's broken up into measures, and within those measures contain notes. It would come to the point where we would literally sit down for 30 minutes and focus on one B flat that was slightly out of tune. And in 8th grade, at least for me, and I'm not saying that everyone in 8th grade is this way, it might just be my own weakness in some ways, but in 8th grade, that was hard. To sit down for 30 minutes to focus on one note just to get it slightly more in tune, when some of my age, I understand that it makes it better, but I don't conceptually process the difference, right? So it's just like, oh my God. And it was exhausting because, okay, I can play the piece, but that's not enough. There's this another level of excellence. I talked about in a blog post I wrote last week. You can go check it out on the page. It's about acting. And what I learned about in an acting class that I took was that once you get it to the point where you can perform it, that's like the starting point. You haven't actually started the work yet. Because basically being able to just get through it is the foundation. Now you have to perfect it and be able to perform it. So definitely something I did not really grasp very well at that time. And I don't think I grasped it very well through the process. But regardless, every day I just worked on it every day. And big props to my parents. It definitely helped having band parents in the house, because they were able to, when I wasn't at lessons with my other teachers, they were able to sit down and we were able to work on these things. And it was definitely blood, sweat, and tears. I'm going to tell you what, between those experiences and day in and day outs on that work, it was, because it just seemed like it was the same thing. And it's like, oh, what's the point? It's a little like, you can't even tell it's out of tune. Someone who was trained obviously could, but it was really an experience of just mental fortitude that I did not yet have developed, simply because there were no experiences in my life that required a development in that mental fortitude. So really, it taught me a lot about hard work, discipline, and just persistence, just staying on something. To think about sitting for half hour to 45 minutes just trying to get one note more in tune is mentally exhausting. It doesn't sound like that hard of a thing to do, but mentally the work is exhausting. So finally we get to the day of NTC and we perform, and actually what was awesome is I went on the stage, I performed, and the performance was all right. I mean, I think it was pretty good. I think it was a pretty decent performance for what was to be expected. Didn't win. I think we got the final place was 5th. So more than happy with that, right? So what was cool though is the composer of the piece actually found out that I was performing it and came out to this event to watch my performance. So that was pretty cool. But what this has taught me about hard work is invaluable, because throughout my years in high school, from success in musicals, from characters like Harold Hill in The Music Man and Reverend Shaw in Footloose, and from running varsity cross country on my last 2 years of high school and being soloists in marching band and doing these things that I've been fortunate enough to do, none of them would have been possible without NTC. I didn't always love playing the trumpet, but nothing that I've done since that would have been possible without the lessons of hard work and discipline that were ingrained in me through the pursuit of excellence on the trumpet. Because the hard work principles that I put into researching stocks now, or researching marketing, or researching business, all that hard work was just simply taught to me by, okay, let's sit down for a half hour and focus on this one note. I mean, once you do that, there's not a whole lot that you can't do when it comes to mental discipline. Obviously, I think physical hard work was something that, like, for example, with cross country, that was some very physically demanding work. But the mental discipline I had developed through music had allowed me to then apply that mental discipline to push myself to go farther in building the physical discipline. So the two parts came together to make a whole quite well. So it was an incredible time, and something I definitely wouldn't change for the world. And so I guess my suggestion to everybody and what to take away from this is to find something that pushes you, and to find something that pushes you very hard. And it could be mentally, it could be physically. I think both of them support each other. A strong physical person will probably, be able to, through the physical activity, will build up a strong mental resilience. And a mentally resilient person will be able to apply that resilience to physical activity and become stronger. I think they both support each other. So you pick what you want to do, but we have to continually challenge ourselves. Okay. Whether that challenge be through learning more, whether that challenge be through getting stronger, whether that challenge be through simply having conversations with people that don't agree with you, stuff like that is difficult. You have to put yourself in difficult positions where there is opposition. And that opposition can come in the form of other people, other ideologies. It can come in the form of 400-pound barbell that you have to lift up and deadlift. That's one hell of an opposition, if you ask me. That opposition can come to the mountain that you have to climb. That opposition can come to the 13 miles that you have to run, or the 5K that you have to jog. There's opposition everywhere. And I think the key to excellence and the key to maintaining the mental fortitude and the physical strength is by continually searching out that opposition. And it's hard, because one of the dangers is like a time like now where everything is so closed, right? There's not a lot we can do. We're kind of being told, stay at home and sit in bed. And because that's what, in my opinion, the staying home in some ways builds, right? Is this ability of this idea of relaxation, or just, I don't have to do anything because life's on break, basically. So we're in a time right now that's has the potential to build mental fortitude. This is a hard time. Hard times make strong people. And the thing about this time right now is that, okay, we have the ability to take this time and take the hardship and really channel that hardship in an effort to basically continue to grow our mental fortitude rather than just sitting in bed and not doing anything. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I've done that plenty of times throughout this break already. So I understand the draw to do that. And that's the point of what I'm saying is it's just one of Newton's laws. Object at rest tends to stay at rest, right? So an object that has nothing going against it, or a human being that has nothing opposing it, is going to tend to seek the path of least opposition. I mean, that's just basic physics too. Like in thermodynamics, everything is going to result to the lowest state. It makes sense that we're going to do things as easy as possible. And growing our mental strength and fortitude and our physical strength is not something that is easy. It's never easy. Having hard conversations is not easy. Working out is not easy. Running a 5K under, 20 minutes is not easy for a lot of people. So these are things that require us to make the conscious decision to go and do. And you might be thinking, well, why should I go, not necessarily right now, right? But like, why should I work out or go to the gym every single day? I don't really want to be a bodybuilder. No, but the discipline you build through going to the gym every day will apply itself on autopilot to the other aspects of your life. The thing about this podcast, right? It's as much as an exercise for me as it is for the value that I'm spreading. Because even if this podcast in 365 days, if nothing happens, which I know it will, but if nothing happens with this podcast in 365 days, I still told myself that I'm going to sit down every day for a year and record a podcast. If I do that, when I do that, it builds up a mental strength, fortitude, and discipline to say I'm going to do something and I'm actually going to go do it. These are things that will automatically apply themselves to other areas of life. I talked about this in the Entrepreneur in Me that I made a very long time ago. And I said, what can you focus on right now that will help you in the long term? And I think this comes back to that same idea, is what we focus on right now that'll help us in the future. And it's hard to do because it is not the natural form and the easiest place that we would normally like to exist as human beings, because it's not easy. It's in its nature opposition and opposing our natural, most restful state. But at the same time, it's also one of the most valuable and important things we can embrace. I hope this was good for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed this. Quick fact of the day for you. This one I'm actually learning in a book that I'm reading right now called Understanding Stocks. So, did you know that the first New York Stock Exchange actually took place under a tree on what is now Wall Street? And if you want to know exactly what that tree was, to know where the whole stock market happened, it was on 68 Wall Street. So go check that out next time you're in New York City. It's where the whole shebang really started. So, hey guys, hope you found some value today. Definitely go out there, leave the world a better place in any little way that you can today. Use your own motto, your own missions, your own motives to go out there and embrace those motives to make the world a better place. Do what you have to do what you're passionate about to improve the world. And I think that is a valuable life choice right there. So hope you found some value. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you have a very highly successful day. We will talk to you tomorrow on day 27. Peace out.